Welcome into episode 52 of the 301 show. We got a great show on tap for you here today. The Vikings might be looking for a new defensive coordinator as Brian Flores gets a bunch of interviews all over the place. The Wild have struggled here recently, but the Frost are tied for second in the PWHL. And the Twins have actually made some strides here in repairing a relationship with one of their key players. All of that and more here on episode 52 of the 301 show. If you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, that would be great. That really helps out me and the channel a lot if you could do both of those things. Let's get into it. Episode 52 coming up here.
From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
Moving on to our first segment of the episode here, the Rinkside Rundown, as the Wild move to 26-13-9 on the season for 61 points. They are third in the Central Division. They are third in the Western Conference. Only the Avalanche and the Dallas Stars are ahead of them. They are also tied for third in the entire NHL with the Tampa Bay Lightning. As for goals for per game, they are tied for 16th with 3.06 goals for per game. They're allowing 2.77 goals against. That is tied for 7th. In shutouts, they have 7, which is tied for first with, I believe, the New York Islanders, is what I saw there. The power play is clipping along at a 22.3% rate, which is 11th in the league. The penalty kill is 76.7%, which is 26th. Face-off percentage is 46.8%, which is tied for 28th in the league. Shots on goal is 28.7. Shots on the other team's goalie, that is 12th in the league. The shots against are 29.7. So one full shot more against per game than you have shots for. That shots against is 26th, tied for 26th in the NHL. So again, the entire thing I've been saying for the last, 2 full seasons, or this year and then last season, has been the faceoffs, and that I believe would help change a ton. And there was a trade idea that former Wild coach Bruce Boudreau brought up on the Bar Down Beauties podcast, which go check them out. They're a fantastic podcast. It's Kristen Kroll, who is the in one of the 2 in arena hosts for the Wild with Juice, and then it's Jesse Pierce, who does a lot of NHL.com writing and just covers the team as well. But Bruce Boudreau was on with them on their podcast, and he brought up the name Jonathan Toews, who, as I'm recording this, scored against the Wild last night in the Wild's game against the Jets. But he said go trade for Jonathan Toews, and he thinks that he would help them a lot just from the faceoff dot. He's not going to provide a lot of scoring, so you might, if you want more scoring, you're going to need to go out and get that somewhere else, which is kind of unfortunate because Buffalo is winning a lot of games as of late, and that was one of the teams that I was saying that they should go after a couple of Buffalo Sabres players at the deadline. But Jonathan Taves is a name to keep an eye on as a potential trade candidate, just for the sole reason of the fact that he would help a ton with the from the faceoff dot. He would help a ton with that. Again, the Wild sitting at 46.8%. I did not look up what Jonathan Taves was sitting at on the season, but he has to help with that. If you need a guy to just go out and win you a faceoff, and that is what Nico Sturm was supposed to do, but he's been struggling with that this year. And then obviously you trade away one of your better centermen in Marco Rossi and the Quinn Hughes trade, and that group as a whole just takes more of a hit. But yeah, so Jonathan Taves is a name to watch here coming up at the trade deadline. Move on here to the goaltending rankings. Gus Bus is 14-9-5 on the season. He's got a save percentage of .912. That is 11th in the NHL amongst qualified goaltenders, which basically just means they have to play a certain amount of games, or percentage of games that the team has played. The goals against average is 2.50, which is tied for 14th. Shutouts, he has 3. That is tied for 4th. A Great Wall, his rankings have slipped a little bit here. He has 12-4-4 on the season. He has a save percentage of .916, which is 5th in the NHL. His goals against average is 2.64 after struggling a little bit here as of late. That 2.64 is 19th in the entire NHL. He still has 4 shutouts. That is now tied for 2nd, as Ilya Sorokin has 5 shutouts on the season. If you look back over the last 4 games that they played in Seattle against the Kraken, where they won 3-2 in overtime. They then took on the New York Islanders at home after a very lengthy road trip where they had to be out of town because the World Junior tournament was happening here in Minnesota at the X. So they finally return home for 3 games, and they proceed to lose to the New York Islanders 4-3 in overtime. So let me tell you that Matthew Schaefer, the defenseman for the New York Islanders, who was the number 1 overall pick, he's phenomenal. He's like 17 or 18 years old still. He's still just a kid, and there was talks about him joining Team Canada for the Olympics here. So Matthew Schaefer is going to be a stud, if he's not already a stud here in the NHL. It was, unfortunately the Wild lost that game, but it was still a ton of fun to watch him play in that one. Then they played against the New Jersey Devils a few nights ago. They lost to the New Jersey Devils 5-2 in the Hughes Bowl. They then took on the Winnipeg Jets, as I mentioned before, last night, as I am recording this on a Friday. And they got absolutely slaughtered. They lost 6-2, which it was an absolutely brutal first period where the Jets had scored a goal with 5 minutes left, and then scored another goal with 10 seconds left, and then scored a third goal with 3 seconds left. So an absolutely brutal opening period that the Wild just never really recovered from at all in that game. If we look ahead here, they've got 4 games next week. They've got 3 on the road, and then they return home. They play in Buffalo against the Sabres on Saturday, January 17th. That game is at 11:30 Central Standard Time. Yes, that is AM. Then they play in Toronto against the Maple Leafs at 6:30 on Monday, January 19th. They play a back-to-back where they go to Montreal the next day on Tuesday, January 20th to play at 6 p.m. And then they finally return home next Thursday, January 22nd for a nationally televised game against the Detroit Red Wings at 8:30 p.m. So again, the big news there is just to keep an eye on Jonathan Taves as a cheaper option, because I feel like if you wanted to go after a Tage Thompson or an Alex Tuck now, the asking price is either or the if you ask Buffalo about them, it's either going to be a no, we're not going to trade those two, or the asking price is going to be ridiculous at this point. But the Frost, on the other hand, are also playing very, very well. They are tied for second in the PWHL. They are a 5-2-0-4 on the season. They have 19 points. Again, the PWHL gives you 3 points for a win in regulation, 2 points for a win in overtime or shootout, 1 point for a overtime or shootout loss, and then 0 points for a loss in regulation. So that's how the Frost get up to 19 points there. They get 3 for the 5 regulation wins and 2 for each of the overtime or shootout wins. They are number 1 in the PWHL in goals for, with 34 goals for so far this season. They are 4th in goals against with 24 goals against on the year, which kind of has been their MO the last 2 seasons. Is they have their offense is outstanding, and then their defense and goaltending seems to be more on like the middle of the pack side of it, which 4th is exactly halfway, the exact middle point of this league now, with Seattle and Vancouver coming in to the league. The penalty kill is operating at 18.8%, which is second in the PWHL, and they are dead last in the penalty kill at 76.0%. Again, that's another one where they just need to start playing better on the penalty kill. But again, if they're you got to wonder too how many of the goals against that they have are from the penalty kill, and how much better would they be if they just improve the penalty kill and could improve the ranking on the goals against. And they are still 4th in the league with a not great penalty kill this year. So I think they do have a really, really good team. It's just the penalty kill, ironically, is killing them so far this season. But again, they are still second in the league, tied for second in the PWHL. So again, if they can just clean up some things on the penalty kill, I think they're going to be have another chance here to go to three-peat in win the Walter Cup again. They played 1 game in the last week where they beat the Seattle Torrent 6-2. If we look ahead here, they play 2 games next week. Or tonight they play at 6 p.m. in New York against the Sirens on Friday, January 16th. And then they play at home against the Montreal Victory at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, January 21st. Some kind of cool news here. The Frost have 3 players in the top 5 in points in the PWHL. Britta Curl is first with 13. Kendall Coyne Schofield is tied for second with 12, with a couple other players, because Kelly Panic only has 1 less point, and she is 5th in the league. So those 3 are in the top 5 in points. And then Kendall Coyne Schofield, who again is second in the league in points, leads the league with 8 goals on the season. So again, the offense is absolutely clicking here for the Frost early in this season, and hopefully that they can continue that throughout the entire year. Had 1 prediction here come off the board, and it looks like it should have come off a while ago, but it said that Katie Knoll scores 3+ goals in the 25-26 regular season, and she is up to, I think, 4 or 5 at this point. So she has gotten that. So that brings me up to 43 total correct out of 105 total predicted for 41%. If we move on here to the predictions coming on the board, I am going with a boys high school and men's NCAA tournament predictions here. I'm going to try to predict some winners for this one. So the high school ones, I went a little bit more specific. I'm going northern teams winning it. So first prediction is I have Moorhead winning the 2026 boys Class AA championship, and the Warroad Warriors winning the boys Class A 2026 championship. So those are two separate predictions. If one wins but not the other, I get one right, one incorrect. And then I'm saying just less specific here, more broad. I am saying that a Minnesota team wins the NCAA men's hockey tournament. All right, now on to the Nordic Report. Here we've got a few things to go over. The first thing I want to go over here is just a quick. Adam Thielen did announce his retirement. Played in 100 as a member of the Minnesota Vikings. He did play in 146 games. He had 542 receptions, 6,751 receiving yards, and 55 receiving touchdowns. So again, congratulations to Adam Thielen on a fantastic career, and hopefully he sticks around the Twin Cities area, and he can be seen at some Vikings games in the future. There is another thing we need to go over here. It is a report here from Ben Gosling. He said his quote was about Jalen Nailor. It was about Jalen Nailor, and he's a free agent this year. And there's some questions here about just the Vikings roster construction and about who the wide receiver 2 might be. And we've got another thing here about the Vikings wide receiver 2 from this past season that we'll go over. But Jalen Nailor, the Ben Gosling quote on Nailor said, the fact that if he is saying, yeah, we're going to see how it plays out, it's a nice way of saying, yeah, I expect to be on the market and I'm going to get paid if I can. I mean, this is your shot to do that. So I don't think it's an unreasonable approach to this at all. So from that, it's basically just saying that Jalen Nailor is going to test the market at this point. He's proven enough to where he can get. I don't know if he's going to get. I don't think he's going to get wide receiver 1 money somewhere, but I think he could very well get wide receiver 2 money somewhere. So the Vikings need to make a decision on if they want to bring him back for wide receiver 2 money at this point. And I think something that might actually make that decision a little bit easier to bring him back and to give him that amount of money is some news that we got the other day, a few days ago, that Jordan Addison was arrested again. The reported charge here is trespassing. And this is reportedly, allegedly coming from other reports. So this is big, reportedly, allegedly here. So he was asked several times to leave the Wabo Palace Noodle Bar inside the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Tampa. And he did not, so he was arrested for that. That was also at like 3:45 in the morning or something like that. And he was basically at a casino and wouldn't leave, and they wouldn't leave after they had asked him to, so they arrested him for that. If you're the Vikings and you're looking at this as strike 4, basically. So this is his third time being arrested. The reason I say that it's strike fours because obviously he was arrested twice. One for going like 150 miles an hour down I-94 in between Minneapolis and St. Paul. And then he also in LA fell asleep behind the wheel and was just stopped on the freeway in near, I believe it was near LAX. And then he got arrested for those two, but then he also went missing in London for like 10 hours and nobody knew where he was. So again, if you're the team, this is strike four for you. So this is just what do you do with Jordan Addison? And if you don't bring him back, if you trade him or I don't think they're going to cut him because I think his talent on the field is very good. He is a very, very talented receiver. There's a lot of other teams that he could be bargaining as getting looks as the wide receiver one on a lot of teams. He is the surefire wide receiver two on all but like two or three teams in the league. And talent wise, he is a very, very good wide receiver in the NFL. But it's just all of these things happen off the field and teams don't really want to have to deal with, you possibly being suspended. You're also making it look bad on the team, and you're not representing the team very well if you're getting arrested or going missing and just stuff like that. And the team, the higher ups are like, we might not want this guy representing our company and our brand. So the Vikings do have a decision to make on Jordan Addison too. And he does have one more year on his rookie year and the team option. So he could have 2 more years on his rookie scale contract after this past season has ended here. So he'll have next year for sure on his rookie deal. And then if the team picks up 1 more year after that, could have 2 more years technically. But some more Brian Flores news has come down here as he gets more looks for vacancies, coaching vacancies here. There's a couple of teams out east that are looking at him. There was rumors that the Giants were going to look at him as a head coach, but they went out and hired John Harbaugh as their head coach. So that obviously, after he got let go, that left the Ravens head coaching job open. And so the Ravens head coaching job, they completed an interview with Brian Flores. I think he's like the 8th player, or not the 8th player, the 8th candidate that they have interviewed for their head coaching position. So Brian Flores has had an interview now with the Baltimore Ravens. It was also reported that he has had an interview for the Commanders' defensive coordinator position. And then the latest report is that the Steelers have requested him at least. They haven't confirmed if he has completed that interview or not, but it was at least requested that from the Steelers to interview for their head coaching position after Tomlin stepped down. But KOC has a quote here that says, "Not surprised people are wanting to talk to him about that role," meaning head coach. "Excited for him to do so. All while knowing our number one priority, really before the season even ended, our number one priority has been to get that thing done with it," meaning a contract extension. So obviously the Vikings want him back. Obviously KOC wants him back. There's it would be fantastic for the Vikings. But from all the stuff I'm seeing online is he seems to want, or at least the Vikings are going to match whatever contract that he gets as for a DC position. So I don't think he would leave the Vikings for a defensive coordinator position. I think he would leave the Vikings for a head coaching position. And I do think the Ravens and the Steelers are two good, two very good spots there. I think the Ravens, if he like that offense in Baltimore was very good. That offense is what, they started 1-5 on the year, and the offense is what had them clawing their way back to, coming down to week 18 being the game if they made or missed the playoffs. They just need a lot of help on their defense. And I think if you're Brian Flores, you're looking at that like, I could just get my hands on that, and we've got the great offense, and you go from there. And I think he would be a fantastic fit in Baltimore. And I actually do have a prediction about that. So we will actually move to the predictions. I did not have any come off the board here for the Nordic Report, but I've got 3 coming on the board. My first prediction here is that Brian Flores will be the Ravens head coach in 2026. So I'm putting it on the record here and putting my money where my mouth is. I'm saying that Brian Flores will be the Ravens' next head coach. Justin Jefferson will have double-digit touchdowns in 2026, so I think he's going to have a bounce-back year next season. And then final one is that I do not think that Jordan Addison will get a contract extension with the Vikings. So whether that is him just getting cut or not, if he gets cut, this comes true. If he gets traded, this one is true. If he just is released to free agency, basically, that this comes true. So I think he will not get a contract extension with the Vikings. And I'm also going to count this as correct if it is he gets an extension, but that extension is part of a deal that where the team that is trading for him wanted the extension. I'm going to count that as correct there. So if he will not get a contract extension with the Vikings to specifically play for the Vikings in 2026. All right, moving on to the Wolves Den here. We'll get the Lynx part done first, just because there's just not as much to talk about with the Lynx right now in their off season. And this is more just combined news between the two teams. They announced a new partnership here, the Wolves and the Lynx did with Wings Credit Union. So there's a new sponsor for the two basketball teams here in Minnesota. On the just solely Timberwolves side here, the Wolves have improved to 27-14 on the season. They are 4th in the conference. They're 5th in the NBA. They are scoring 120.3 points per game, which is 3rd. Field goal percentage is 48.6%, which is 4th. 3-point percentage is 37.4%, which is 4th as well. Their free throw percentage is 75.3%, which is 28th in the NBA. Rebounds per game is 44.8. It is 10th in the NBA. The blocks per game is 5.3, which is tied for 7th. Turnover differential is minus 0.8, which is 22nd. Points against per game, they're 11th with 114.6 points against per game. The field goal percent against is the 46.0%, which is 5th lowest in the NBA. The 3-point percentage against is 35.3%, which is 12th. Rebounds against per game is 43.1, which is tied for 10th fewest. And then blocks against per game is 3.9, which is 2nd fewest in the NBA. If we look back, they played 4 games since the last episode that we had. They had a back-to-back against the Cleveland Cavaliers, 1 home, 1 away. They split that with the home teams winning both games. So the Wolves won at home against the Cavs, 131-122, and then lost in Cleveland, 146 to 134. They then came back home to play the San Antonio Spurs in what was maybe the game of the year, not just for the Wolves, but the entire NBA. The Wolves were down 69 to 50 in the third quarter. And then Ant stormed back. He made the game winner over Victor Wembanyama with 16.8 seconds left in the fourth. And the Wolves won 104 to 103. Rudy had another flagrant foul, so he got tossed and suspended for a game, so he was out in the game against Milwaukee. Ant was also out, so there's some worry about that game. Even though Milwaukee's not doing that great this year, they still have, one of the best players in the league, arguably maybe up there for becoming one of the best players in NBA history. They had with Giannis, and the Wolves ended up winning that game 139 to 106. Their next game is in Houston tonight at 8:30 p.m. on Friday, January 16th. They then traveled to San Antonio to play the Spurs again at 7 p.m. on Saturday, January 17th, which is tomorrow again as I'm recording this. Then they travel to Utah to play the Jazz at 8 p.m. on Tuesday, January 20th. But the Wolves have now gotten to third place in a very impressive streak in NBA history, not just active streak, because they are the longest active. They have the longest active streak with this streak right now, but it is the third longest streak of all time, and that is the most games in a row with 100 plus points in that game. They have 99 such straight games. That is dating back to December of 2024 up until obviously present. The only two teams ahead of them are the San Antonio Spurs with 129 straight from December 1978 to March 1980. And then the Denver Nuggets at 136 straight games from January 1981 to December 1982. So it is the longest streak since the 80s, since the early 80s. And yeah, so just again, a cool tidbit about the Wolves this year so far. That then we'll move into now, again, a couple of trade candidates, and these are two names that I have heard brought up, and I believe I've brought up both of these names. And I think one of them is John Morant, and we talked about that a little bit too on the 301 banter episode I did with the 10K takes guys. You can go find that in the playlist on the 301 banter playlist I have on the YouTube channel if you want to go listen back to that one. But that would basically, I think, just disrupt this lineup too much to bring him in, and I just don't really want with all the off the court stuff. It just seems like you would have too many distractions and stuff to bring him in here. And then the other guy that I think is a more reasonable option here is Colby White from the Chicago Bulls. I think he could help here and help here a lot. It's just what exactly are the Spurs, or excuse me, not the Spurs, the Bulls looking for in return for Colby White. So they've got to be sending out with the Wolves being in the first apron at this point for the salary. You've got to be sending out more salary than you are taking on. So that is the big hang up with any trade that they make this season, is they need to be giving up more salary than they're taking on at this point. So yeah, you got 3 predictions coming on the board here. I didn't have any coming off The predictions coming on the board here are the point streak, 100-plus point streak, will hit at least 110 games. So you'll have 11 more games in a row of at least 100 points. Said the Lynx will make it to the next WNBA Finals, whenever that is. Could be maybe a lockout this upcoming year. So just whenever the next WNBA Finals is, the Lynx will be one of the two teams in that matchup. And then in his next 4 games, Ant will drop 40 points at least, 40-plus points at least once. So it might not be the team's next 4 games because he's still dealing with that foot thing right now. But at least once in the next 4 games, he will drop. In his next 4 games, he will drop at least 40-plus. All right, moving on to the final team segment here of the episode, Target Field Talkers. The Twins have had a couple of moves here. The first one is that they claimed Vidal Brujan off of waivers from the Braves. It is Brujan is a 27-year-old switch hitter. This is his 6th team in 6 years, and he is more of a infielding utility man, and I think it seems more like a depth piece claim than anything. So this also means that Mickey Gasper was designated for assignment or release. Again, I think that he might be one of the guys that is like an up and down type player, or he is like the injury replacement player for the infield. But yeah, it just, the big thing that worries me with Brujan here is the fact that it is his 6th team in 6 years and he is only 27 years old. It's a little bit different if it's Carlos Santana, where he's switching teams, but it's because he's 38 to 40 years old and he's just getting up there in age. Like that's completely different. 27 is your prime at this point. And that's what I just worry about at this point. And again, maybe it doesn't make much of a difference because he is a depth piece now. But speaking of being sent up and down in AAA over in St. Paul, the St. Paul Saints have a new manager as Gardy here, Ron Gardenhire's son. Toby was promoted to the big league club on the coaching staff here for Derek Shelton. But Brian Dinkelman, who was a former Minnesota Twin himself as a player, he is now the new St. Paul Saints manager. He is right now he's 42 years old. He at AA Wichita last year, he had a 76-62 record. So it was 14 games above 500. He had in 5 seasons with High A Cedar Rapids, he had a combined record of 367 and 286. So I actually do like this move as for the Twins, because a lot of these younger guys coming up like Culpepper and I forget the last guy's name or the other guy's name now, but there's a couple players here that are massive prospects for the Twins that have seen Dinkelman throughout the minor league system. So he knows what they still need to work on and what they need to improve before they get to the big league level. So I think that is fantastic that they are promoting within from that standpoint to help with more player development than just winning. So I think that Brian Dinkelman is a good choice here for the manager position in the Saints. Now there's a manager in the big leagues that is new again, like Dinkelman is with Derek Shelton as the new manager of the Minnesota Twins, and he has hit the ground running here in Minnesota. And I do like the moves, or like he's obviously not making roster moves, but I do like the things that he is doing here early in his tenure with the Twins. He was quoted as saying that he reached out to Royce Lewis because he wants to have a good relationship with him and he wants to include him on other things. So he has reached out to Royce, and Royce said, Royce's quote in return, Royce was asked about the conversation and ongoing conversations with Derek Shelton, and Royce's quote about that was, "It seems like since the playoffs, the 2023 playoffs, the team has been trending. The team was trending in a different direction, and no one really knew what that direction was. So it's nice to be talked to and be in the loop a little more, same as Buxton would be, or some of the other leaders." And I think that is fantastic. I think, obviously Buxton is very important to this team. Obviously Pablo and Lopez and Joe Ryan are very important to this team. But I think Royce Lewis might be the fourth most important player, if you want to say that those three are more important to the success of this Twins team. I think Royce is easily the fourth, and you could say that he might be more important than some of the guys I listed there. I think the other three are more important for this upcoming season, but Royce might be more important for the long-term future of this team. And I think Derek Shelton, if he wants to stay around a while, he's got to get Royce going again. And Royce seems like he is kind of like a JJ McCarthy, where he needs to just stay on the field. Because when you with Royce, when he has been healthy, and maybe not exactly last year, but everybody but Buxton was having a down year last year. Like when Royce is playing and he is playing consistently, like he does have fantastic numbers, and he might have 2 or 3 bad games in a row, but he's generally able to snap out of that funk. And he obviously, according to him, he doesn't do slumps. But he is this important. And again, too, like, I think the biggest mistake Rocco made last year was obviously we can talk about the biggest mistake the Twins have made last year, just as a team. Obviously with the fire sale at the deadline, that the Pohlads not selling the team might be the biggest mistake too. But I think that the fact that they are, or the fact that after the fire sale, after the trade deadline, that first game back where you had basically nobody, it was just basically the Minnesota Saints, and you went out and still batted Royce Lewis 8th in the lineup. At that point, you're not going to win very many games. I want to see you give confidence and reps to the young guys. And obviously Royce, I don't think needs the reps to prove that he's, a major league player. Like, I think he has proven he is a major league player. And obviously you always need reps to get even better and take that next step forward from wherever you are. But he doesn't need reps to prove, no, I am a big leaguer. Like, he needs to just get reps to keep improving the game where he is now. But I also think that the reps are more important, and him batting higher in the lineup is more important for him, because it's a vote of faith from this team. And it's saying, no, you might be struggling right now, but we still believe in you. We still believe that there is that, that 2023 playoff player in there, and that guy that, was beating his chest around the first base or down the first base line after hitting that home run against the Blue Jays in the playoffs. Like, we still believe that guy is in there, and we want you to see that we still believe that guy exists, and I believe that guy exists in Royce Lewis. And yeah, it was a bad year. Like, it was just objectively a bad year last year. He couldn't stay on the field consistently. He got hurt a few times. And then when he was healthy, it was probably the worst year of his big league career. But again, I still believe that is going to change in 2026. I believe that he is the guy that is going to help it's going to be him and Buxton in this lineup, and those two being the two that are carrying this team in the important situations, and they're going to be the two that are when you look back at it, that are going to be like, okay, those two help this team a lot, and in being at least somewhat competitive. Now, do I think they're going to go out and compete with the Yankees or the Dodgers in the NL for the World Series? Not right now. No, I don't. But I think if you have the cornerstone pieces like Buxton and Lewis, and if Brooks Lee can step up here, and Luke Keeschall continues to progress in his second year in the bigs, like, I think that they have a chance to make it to win another playoff series or two playoff series and make the playoffs in the first place. It's, to me, the big question is just the bullpen for this upcoming year. But again, Royce is a massive part of the success of this team, and he is going to always be a massive part of the success of this team for as long as he's on the roster. And I think the team needs to make sure, and I do think, based off of this quote from Royce, I think that the coaching staff are taking those next steps to help him get some of his confidence back and get, play like he was in 2023 and 2024. So again, it's another thing to keep an eye out for here is just the Royce, we'll call it the Royce Lewis swagger. And he just, he will, I believe he's taken another step forward this year. And maybe that next step forward is playing 100 plus games this year. So again, I believe that Royce Lewis is going to bounce back this year for the Minnesota Twins. As for my predictions, I've got one that came off the board, and this one should have come off a while ago too. But I said Pablo Lopez and or Bailey Ober will get Cy Young Award votes for the 2025 season. They did not. That's 30 correct out of 101 total predicted for 30%. Put my money where my mouth is again here. I'm saying that Royce Lewis will be a 2026 All-Star, or at least he will be named to the team. Hopefully he plays in it, but he will be a 2026 All-Star, American League All-Star with the Twins, hopefully. I don't think he'll be traded, but again, we'll just say a 2026 All-Star will be the official prediction here. Second one is within 3 years of the Pohlads not being the majority owner, so they could have a minority stake in the Twins, but within those first 3 years of them, and we'll say first 3 full seasons. So if they sell the team halfway through the year, it'll be the full 3 seasons after that. So not that season that is happening when they sell it, if they sell halfway through a season. So the first 3 seasons of the Pohlads not being the majority owners, the Twins will make it to at least the American League Championship Series, which is around right before the World Series. I think Buxton is going to also continue his success at the plate. I've already got a Gold Glove prediction on the board for Buxton, but I think he is going to win a Silver Slugger in 2026. Welcome back now to the final segment of today's episode, the Power Ranking segment. For those of you that don't know, the Power Ranking segment is a segment we do at the end of every single episode of the 301 show. It is where we take a Minnesota sports topic and rank that topic 1 through 10, excuse me. We have done segments in the past where we look at the best comebacks in Minnesota sports history, the best lifers, the guys that have stuck around their Minnesota sports team for their entire career, the best trade, the worst trade, the biggest what ifs, the best sports photos in Minnesota sports history. So those are some of the ones that we have done in the past. If you have any ideas about topics that we should do, let me know down in the comments. You can also email the show at frozennorth30@gmail.com. That will also be linked down in the description if you want to just get it there too. But for this one, we have the top 10 weather moments in Minnesota sports history. This isn't necessarily the best. This is just the most iconic weather moments in Minnesota sports history. The first one comes from last year, actually. It is calling it the Rainbow Lightning game at Target Field from last summer. Is I forget I think it was August in 2024. It happened, and there was a massive rainstorm that led to. We'll put a picture up of it too. There's a massive rainstorm that led to a rainbow over Target Field, and there was some lightning going on as well. It was a beautiful, beautiful sight with Minneapolis in the background and Target Field, and the game eventually got back underway too, just very delayed. At number 9, we have got the 2013 the Minnesota Twins snow opener. It was snowing a little bit during that game. It was more flurries than full-on snow, but the Twins still played their home opener that day. At number 8, we've got the wildfire smoke delay. And you might be thinking, why is that such a big thing? There's a wildfire smoke delay and the Twins got delayed. This was the Minnesota Lynx that got delayed. A team that plays indoors got delayed due to wildfire smoke up from the wildfires in Canada back in 2023. At number 7 here, we go out to when the Vikings played in Philadelphia, and we've got Tuesday night football, where the Vikings had to have a game postponed to Tuesday night, and that was the first Tuesday night game since the 40s. Because there was snow. So Tuesday night, a snowstorm led to the Vikings playing some Tuesday night football. Number 6, we go to the hockey rink here. And it is the 2014 Hockey City Classic with the Gophers and the Ohio State Buckeyes. It was 10 degrees out, and the game was being played at TCF Bank Stadium, and the Gophers ended up winning 1-0 as I pull the second sheet up here. But number 6 is the 2014 Hockey City Classic. I was also in attendance at that game with some of my hockey teammates. At number 5 here, we go all the way back to the 1960s. We go to the 1962 snow opener for the Twins. This was a massive snowstorm that hit the old Met Stadium. And the reason I rate this one as number 5 is because of how they needed to clear the snow off the field. They used sprinklers and a helicopter that was hovering above the stadium. And my favorite thing that they used to clear the snow off the field, they used flamethrowers. So fantastic way to clean off the field of snow. At number 4, again, this wasn't a singular moment, so I couldn't, or like a singular game. So that's why I put it at number 4. I didn't really want to put it any higher than that, because there just wasn't a singular moment. It was more a philosophy that good old Bud Grant had, and that was the Bud Grant no heaters mentality. So he wouldn't allow any heaters on the sidelines when the Vikings were playing outside at the old Met Stadium, and he just didn't allow. Thought it would give them a toughness advantage, which it kind of did with that Purple People Eater defense. And so the temps in Minnesota, again, imagine the weather conditions in the winter of Minnesota. Imagine trying to play football in that without being able to stand next to a heater when you're taking a break. Number 3 comes back to the coldest sporting event in North American history since the 1950s, and that would be the Winter Classic that was here in 2022. It was supposed to be in 2021, but obviously COVID postponed that. But number 3 is the Winter Classic. That was I believe it was -5 degrees at puck drop, and it only got colder from there. Again, it was another one that my brothers and I were at Target Field. Number 2 here is we're going back to the Bud Grant and the Vikings here. It is the 2015 playoff game. Again, we'll keep our conversation about the beginning of that game and not the end of it, and maybe a kicker that missed a field goal at the end in 2015. But that was again another cold game, freezing cold game, and Bud Grant walked out for the coin flip wearing a short sleeve polo shirt. And he did have a jacket on that he took off for the coin toss, and he handed it to the closest person he saw, which ended up being NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. And he made Roger Goodell hold his shirt or his jacket while he walked out in a polo shirt. At least that is the story that I have been told, and that is a story that I will be sticking to at this point. Number 1 most iconic Minnesota sports weather moment, I think, is the most obvious one that we have had to this of any of these ones, because there's been some of these where it's been 1 or 2 moments that could be number 1, but I think this is very easily the number 1 weather moment in Minnesota sports history, and that is when the snow destroyed one of our stadiums' roofs and the Metrodome roof collapsed, and they had to postpone the Vikings game. Again, don't have the rights for it, so you can go look up the video on YouTube of the roof collapsing. But yeah, the dome roof collapsing comes in at number 1 here to finalize our top 10 weather moments in Minnesota sports history. Again, thank you now for watching episode 52 of the 301 show. Really means a lot that you made it this far. Comment down below, again, where you agree with me, disagree with me. Please like the video. Lets YouTube know it's a good video. Please subscribe to the channel, as it lets YouTube know that this is a good channel to push out to other people. You can share this with friends too. If you want to, you can email the show with any questions, comments, concerns that you have. If you want a question answered on air or as I'm recording this, you can also email the show or comment it down below too, and I will answer it with the appropriate segment that it requires. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next time for episode 53. Peace.